Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to Politics and Debate. Inshallah, today we're going to be discussing the issue of far-right extremism. Now, within recent years, thanks to the rise of terrorist groups, the opposition has arisen as such in the case of far-right extremism, with groups in the UK such as Britain First, the EDL and the BNP. And all over the world, in various different countries, these groups are arising, all because of this feeling of fear and panic towards the Muslims. Now, for us, this is a very startling issue, and it's quite frightening for us, as we are just peaceful people. We want to get on with our daily lives. We don't want to run the risk of being attacked or even just insulted. We don't want that, and we don't deserve that. So to discuss this and a few other things, inshallah, will be my esteemed guest, Dr. Zahra. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
So what would you say has contributed to the rise of far-right extremism across the world?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. It's basically it can boil down to one or 2 points. Probably the main point being ignorance. People don't know. They have such thoughts and ideas about Islam, and they want to remove any mention of Islam or any signs of Islam. They want to remove mosque, close down mosque, and so on, and against Muslims. Basically, they don't know. The problem is ignorance, in the sense that they don't know what Islam stands for. What the average Muslim is not like the atrocities committed by the terrorists over the last 17, 18 years, and probably before that, whether it's 9/11, 7/7, and recently the Westminster attack, London Bridge attack, and Manchester, and so on and so forth. People see this and they say, oh, this is what Islam is about, which is very unfortunate, very sad. A few terrorists commit these atrocities, and the rest bear the brunt for it. I suppose they want, those terrorists want to cause hardship for the Muslims, because in that way they breed more terrorists, if you like,
Yes.
or extremists. So on the one hand, people who think, all Muslims are like this is what Islam is about, Islam is evil, this and that, this shows their ignorance of the matter. And of course, I wouldn't blame them alone for this ignorance. Those people who have, whether it's Britain First or BNP or EDL or whatever, I wouldn't blame them alone for the ignorance. I blame the Muslims for that ignorance, because it is really imperative upon the Muslims, at least the Muslims in the West, or in this country, in the UK. It's imperative that they do their utmost to present, to convey this message to the people, and to put the record straight, to put the record right, that Islam is not about this. Any misconception that they have about Islam and about the understanding of Islam need to be put right. So a lot of work need to be done on the Muslim part, to convey, to teach, to educate the masses, and especially those few who have such extremist view, to educate them that Islam is not that. So I think the greater burden is on the shoulders of the Muslims in removing this ignorance, and they need to do far more than what they have done. I think what they've done is minuscule, is very little indeed. It's almost nothing, and I think they need to seek out, they need to try to reach to all the people in this country, and of course in general in the West, and in particular to those people who have, if I may call it, far right views, if you like. I think these people don't know about Islam, and I would put the greater share of the blame on, if not entirely, on the Muslim shoulder. That they need to do something about it. They need to address, they need to educate the masses. They need to educate those people who have far right opinion, ideas. They need to reach to them and say, this is not what we believe in. This is not what Islam is about. Especially the Shia, they need to get out and sort of tell the people, convey to the people that Islam is not about this. Ahlul Bayt, which are the true representative of Islam, the embodiment of Islam, are the Prophet and his daughter Fatima Zahra, and the 12 Imams, Imam Ali being the first, Imam Mahdi being the last. These 14 individuals, infallible individuals, these are the true embodiment of Islam, and we need to convey these teachings to every member of the society and the Western world at large, but we're not doing that, unfortunately. So I think it's our fault.
That's a very logical way of looking at it. What would you say, though, to an individual who might turn to you and say, oh, but I'm sick of the fact that every time there's a terrorist attack that I have to stand up and defend Islam? How would you react to such a statement?
Yes, sorry. Unfortunately, this is being done in the name of Islam. Logically, people shouldn't immediately jump to the conclusion that Islam is this, but we are in a real world, and unfortunately, a lot of people are can't help but thinking that, and I think we need to do far more than what we've done, if we've done anything at all, to convey, to educate the masses that this is not Islam, so that they don't jump to this conclusion. As I said, I think I put it squarely as being our responsibility, that we are not doing enough. We, the Muslims or the Shia, are not doing enough to educate the masses. So if something goes, a terrorist atrocity is committed, and people start blaming Islam, so don't be upset that, I have to stand up and defend Islam. Unfortunately, that's the real world, and that's what you've got to do. But before that, if you don't want to do this, before that you need to do a lot of education. You need to educate the people about Islam so that they don't jump to this conclusion.
We shouldn't look at it as a burden. We should look at it as an honor, actually, because we're very lucky to be the Shia of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So what an honor it is for us to defend it, even if it's just in retaliation to someone's comment. But I mentioned earlier that the rise of these groups, these extremist groups that bear this hatred towards Muslims, is quite frightening for us, because we just want to get on with our daily lives. We don't want to be attacked, and we don't deserve to be attacked because we haven't done anything wrong. So would you say that the governments, UK governments, maybe America, European governments, do you think they're doing enough to protect individuals from these extremist groups? Are they limiting the power of these groups?
I think so, yes. I think so. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have had the sort of safety and security that we have today in general. Okay, incidents might happen here and there. Somebody may be able to do something, but in general, I think the UK government has done enough to provide the safety and security for all in this country. It goes without saying, it's undeniable. I think that is there. There are always exceptions. Just as some terrorists manage to do atrocities, whereas they're doing their best to prevent those acts of terrorism. At the same time, they're also doing their best to prevent atrocities on the other side. So I think overall they're doing a good job, the UK government.
I think we in the UK, we're quite lucky actually, because yes, unfortunately our government do things that are unacceptable and things that we should criticise and speak out against. But alhamdulillah for the fact that we are protected in this country. We can call ourselves Shias. We can show to the world that we're Shias. We can go to the mosque and have the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Husseini alayhi salam. Like, how many other individuals in other countries don't have that luxury, that they can be arrested or even killed for being a Shia or even associating with Shias?
Yeah, very true. That's very true. It's sad that there may be some countries where you wouldn't be able to say, or you wouldn't dare say you're Shia, but alhamdulillah, we live in a country where we have safety and security, and that security is provided for all, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, Shia or non-Shia, and so on and so forth. So it's great.
Alhamdulillah, indeed. Yeah, I think as well, we do have the misconception that, like, up until a few years ago, everything was quite rosy for Muslims. Like, we didn't have any opposition as such, but in reality, from the very early days of Islam, Muslims were being attacked. Just look at the early years in Mecca before the Hijrah, the migration to Medina. Look at how the Prophet ﷺ and those early companions were persecuted so much by the tribe of the Quraysh.
Yes, yes. I mean, if you see the history of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, beginning with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when he was in Mecca, or when he migrated to Medina, and in the case of Imam Ali and what have you, there have been a lot of false accusation against him, a lot of harassment. First of all, he was being harassed in Mecca, but when he moved to Medina, they started waging war against him. So Quraysh, the tribe which was spearheading the campaign against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would travel 400 kilometers, 500 kilometers from Mecca to Medina to come and fight the Muslims there. So they were being, if you like, persecuted because of the lack of understanding. But eventually, when after the conquest of Mecca, which was conquered and it was, if you like, liberated from Quraysh, without the shedding of blood whatsoever, the Prophet went and forgave all those who had committed all these atrocities. Over 10 years, they committed atrocities against the Muslims and the Prophet. They had killed his uncle, they had mutilated him, which was done by Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, who was the chief of Quraysh and the head, the master campaigner of war against the Prophet. Despite all that, the Prophet ﷺ forgave all of them and did not brought down any kind of punishment against any of them. But despite that, they continued. They started calling him names. He's crazy, he's mad, he's magician, he's sorcerer, and so on. So there was a lot of campaign in that respect. But the Prophet ﷺ, he continued to do one thing, which was to educate, until it got to the point where all of Mecca became Muslim, which was the capital city of anti-Prophet, anti-Islam. When they came to realize the teachings of Islam, they accepted Islam. Okay, and probably in the future we'll shed more light on that, to see that those people who used to think Islam was wrong and so on, when they came to learn about the teachings of Islam, especially material teaching about politics and about economics and about tax and about when they came to realize these, they all embraced Islam. And inshallah we'll come to this. But there's always this hype that some make against Islam, whether it's today or even then, always existed. For example, talking about the hype and the misinformation that people spread around, and as a result of that there is a lot of ignorance. When Imam Ali alayhi salam was killed in the mosque while he was prostrating, performing the morning prayer, the early morning prayer, he was prostrating and someone came, Abdurrahman ibn Muljim, la'natullah alayhi, he came and struck him on the head with a sword and he was killed. He died later. When the news got to Sham, to Syria, where Muawiyah was the ruler, they said, Ali killed in the mosque? What was he doing in the mosque? Oh, he was praying. Oh, but he's a non-believer. Why would he pray in the mosque? So this was the understanding of the people. So you need to, and that is done through whatever, if you like, the hype and the media, and Muawiyah was paying people to propagate, to do these, spread these stories against Imam Ali alayhi salam. What needs to be done is basically education.
Yes, there's some really interesting examples there, and I think I guess what we can say is, like, history does repeat itself. But another thing as well is through the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, they show us that actually we can have a sense of hope. Yes, it is frightening. Yes, it is unnerving that these groups are rising up and they are threatening us. But there is a way to overcome it, and there's a way of overcoming it peacefully without shedding blood.
Exactly. That we have no other option. You can overcome this and peacefully, and it has to be peaceful. It has to be without any other form other than peaceful. And in fact, that is the easiest way. It's going to be it's difficulties. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to face a lot of opposition, a lot of insults. But I think the future is bright.
Inshallah, indeed. Yes, inshallah, and we can hold on to that hope. Inshallah. And of course, with the reappearance of the master of our age, Sahib al-Zaman, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten his reappearance. Thank you so much, Dr. Zahra, for that wonderful wonderful insight and wonderful discussion. My dear brothers and sisters, please do stay tuned, as next up my dear sister Fatima will be discussing leaving and abandoning music in the topic of home and living, inshallah.